Hey guys, what's going on? Sherman here. Today I have kind of a first impressions double feature for you guys. The knife up top here is of course the beautiful Spyderco Domino, as most of you are going to recognize. Really been wanting one of these for a long time. Finally got my hands on one, and this one I just got today, so it's complete first impressions. It's kind of my first impression slash 24-hour observation. I just got this in the mail yesterday. This is the H&K Plan D, a much more underappreciated knife. But you know, it's a fixed blade. Not many people are as enthused about fixed blades as they are folders, especially ones this purpose driven. But I'll get into that in this kind of first impressions video. So just want you guys to look, just marvel in the beauty. But I'm actually gonna save this for last. First, I'm gonna start with the H&K, just because, you know, I like the underdog. And this little guy is awesome, but not very well known in the knife community. H&K knives really aren't anyway. But for those of you who don't know, H&K is a firearm company. And of course, you know, they ventured into knives, started putting, well, they put their brand names on cheap Chinese-made knives. But then they started making them in America, and they were really good. And then Benchmade actually bought them out. Now, I may not be completely correct on some of that history. Maybe they're always made in the U.S. But Benchmade bought them out. So this is actually a Benchmade knife. It says it's licensed by H&K. But it is actually a Benchmade made knife. As you can see by the stamp down here, USA. And you can start to see that Benchmade is starting to come out with a lot of knives under the H&K name and brand, but it's like Benchmade's take on it. And you can really tell, like you'll see Benchmade take H&K designs and just kind of revamp them and make them more Benchmade-like. But H&K knives are made really well because they're made to the same specs as Benchmade. So that's cool. Like I said, they're all made in here in America out of great materials. So this little guy, this is kind of Benchmade's version. I'm just going to keep saying Benchmade because H&K isn't anything anymore. They're owned by Benchmade. But anyway, this is a take on the K-Bar TDI, or Tactical Defense Institute, I think is what that stands for. And most of you guys have seen the K-Bar TDI knives. And I've recently been wanting a small, fairly cheap fixed blade that I can carry with me on my weak side. For firearm retention. You know, if somebody comes and tries to grab for your firearm, you'll have a backup option to combat with that. And I've been looking into a bunch of different tops knives. Something that I'm going to be trying to wear every day up against my body. 1095 steel. It's not great for pressed up against the body carry. This is actually N680 steel, which is a stainless steel. And it is coated, so it should be okay. But this is a fantastic knife. Oh, I kind of lost track of what I was going with there. But I wanted to get a TDI, but I didn't really dig the blade shape, and everybody's review that I read online, they just bashed the sheath. And that's a huge thing for me. You know, you can have a great fixed blade, but if your sheath sucks, then you're not going to carry it. This thing has an awesome sheath that came with it. It's, from what I understand, it's Kydex. It feels like Kydex. It kind of looks like Kydex. Usually the edges will be smooth if it is real genuine Kydex, but it actually feels like Kydex. So that's cool. Even if it's not Kydex, it's better than anything else that, you know, like the injection molded plastic sheets. But I think this is genuine Kydex. Comes with a metal spring clip with nice little retention hooks on there for when you carry this inside the waistband or on your belt. The belt loop is really wide, so you can carry it on a very thick belt. And it carries very deep. As you see, it's a very deep carry clip. And it is reversible. These two holes right here, I think, is for carrying it as a neck knife, maybe. Not 100% sure on that, to be honest with you guys. Maybe a different mounting option, maybe for a tech lock. That's probably what I'd guess if you just wanted to take this off, because those are proprietary holes for those screws. So that's probably for a tech lock. So that's cool. It's a good option. And what's really cool, and forgive me guys, I cannot remember what it's called, but basically it has a pin on the inside here, so that if you're wearing this and somebody tries to come up behind you and try to yank it from behind, it won't deploy from being yanked, you know, backwards. If I can come up behind you and yank it that way. And that's because it has a metal pin right there that locks into the jimping in the spine of the blade and keeps it from being pulled out that way. It can only be pulled out with a forward tug. But ergonomics are amazing on this knife. It has kind of a forward pistol grip ergo to it. I really like that. It's really for people that's like self-defense for dummies. You just grab it and you just start jabbing or slashing. And what's really cool is because it is a Wharncliffe blade. And the K-Bar TDIs are all drop points. I'm just not into that real short, stubby drop point look. So I really love the look of the Wharncliffe blade and the functionality of a Wharncliffe in self-defense and possibly utility. You know, if you just wanted to use this knife as a utility blade, it'd be awesome. It has an extremely thin stock of steel, and it is ground very, very thin. If you guys own a Spyderco Yojimbo 2, that point is on par with the Yojimbo 2. Came pretty darn sharp out of the box. I don't have any paper to test for that. Oh wait, yeah I do. Now it's not going to be perfect right out of the box. I already know because I tested it. But it's just some standard paper. But it is adequately sharp right out of the box. You know, there's no catches, there's no hang-ups. And I love Wharncliffes. They're such a good utility blade shape, and they're super easy to sharpen too. But not only that, I love the sheath. It has a very satisfying click, and it's kind of like a two-stage click because it has a little nub right there that locks underneath the finger choil, and then the sound of that metal pin. I just love that. Very secure. The handle scales are Grivery. So they're hard. They're kind of heavy. You could, but I think you can take them off and probably wrap the handle if you wanted. Well, I know you can take them off to clean out underneath them. But you could probably take them off and maybe paracord wrap the handle if you wanted to decrease the weight and give you a pretty nice feel. But I thought originally it was going to be kind of a rubberized feel, which would not have been good if you're going to carry this under clothing because it would kind of catch. But it has a lanyard hole. I probably wouldn't carry a lanyard. You can see the grip. Like I said, I love the deep finger choil. Keeps your finger from slipping forward. You know, I looked at some Tops versions of a TDI. You know, their kind of take on that cant. You know, that's what I mean by that. An angle cant. Not that it, you know. You guys know what I mean. But I love the design. I love the ergonomics. Feels amazing. Forward and reverse grip. The belt clip is awesome. Excellent retention into the belt and the pant line, or the waistband of your pants, I mean, which is an absolute must. Too many times I've carried knives like this inside the waistband, gone to deploy the blade, and oh, the whole thing comes with you. Luckily, it was never when I needed it to. It was just, you know, I was trying to deploy it like that for practice. But excellent knife. I got this off Blade HQ for, I think, 60 bucks. I think it was like 64 after shipping. Pretty good deal, actually, for a blade made here in the US out of N680 steel, which is a really good steel. In my opinion, and of course this is going to vary, I might start a little comment war down below for, you know, even daring to say this, but I think it's kind of on par with even 154 CM. You know, it's a good steel. I like it. But great sheath, very well designed, a good steel. You have Grivery handles. And the fit and finish of this knife is excellent. Highly recommended. And I'm not going to really go into the specifics of why it's shaped like this, and, you know, the TDI blade shape, or knife shape. But you guys can look that up, and I'll delve into that more of the full review. This is, you know, I say this all the time, but these are not my reviews. That was not my review of this knife. It's just like a basic overview first impressions. Like I said, I got this yesterday, and I've carried it once, carried it all day today at work, and I love it. So, highly recommended. And in my opinion, if you're wanting a TDI, that's kind of like the upgrade of it. But what you guys came to see was probably this bad boy right here. Oh yeah. An awesome knife company by the name of Knife Hog hooked me up with this blade to review. Couldn't be more excited. I was actually supposed to get this blade last Friday, but it ended up getting lost in the mail. So, Postal Service wasn't doing their job very well, and had to wait this long. But it didn't get completely lost. It made its way back, so happy about that. This knife is pretty darn awesome. Very snappy flipper. I have been wanting another Spyderco flipper since I had to return my Southard. Loved my Southard. I'd still love to have another one. Just not in the budget at the moment, but you know, that's at the moment. I do have a new full-time job. So, you know, I've really been wanting to try out this knife since before it first came out. Actually, you know, I saw the prototype pictures and I fell in love. Like another Spyderco flipper. It's flipping awesome. Literally. A titanium frame lock. Heck yeah. Just one thing right off the bat. Let me actually making a zoom out a little bit. I don't have small hands. You guys know I have fairly large size hands. This is a much bigger knife than I thought. You can see it in my hand. It's much bigger than I thought. It's much more, I thought it was going to be kind of in the same size as a Delica. But it's actually in the same size range as Paramilitary 2. Wish I'd thought about that to bring it out as a comparison. Or it's like the size of a Mannix, basically. But a lot of people have been calling this a Sage flipper, because it does look a lot like the Spyderco Sage, which is not an insult, because the Sage is an awesome design. Honestly, from pictures of this knife and in other videos, I was not into this carbon fiber pattern at all. I thought it was kind of tacky. But seeing it in person, honestly, kind of fell in love. I really, really like this carbon fiber pattern now. Like I said, now that I'm seeing it in person. Now it is like the Sage 2 in the sense that it's not 100% carbon fiber. It is a black G10 scale with a carbon fiber overlay. So it is actual carbon fiber, but it's not 100%. It's the carbon fiber laminate. It's laminated on top of G10. People fuss about that like crazy. I could care less because I like the carbon fiber look. I don't care if it's not 100%. Now for this price point, you know, they could probably give you real genuine carbon fiber, but you know, it's whatever. I love that it is a flow-through constructed knife. Very nice back spacers. I really like the clip. It's the same hourglass clip Spyderco does, but it has a neat finish to it. It's almost kind of got like a blued finish, like on a gun. Like a black ice finish. I really like that. They're using the really big screws for the body, like they did with a couple of their recent knives. The body screws are actually bigger, look bigger than the pivot in terms of the torque size you have to use. Like Spyderco is awesome for four-way positional clip. You can carry this left, right-handed, tip up or tip down. It came right hand tip down, or tip up I mean, so that's the way it will stay because that's perfect for me. Famous Spyderco leaf-shaped blade. Kind of not digging the blade shape. If it's a little bit more narrow, I think I'd like it, but it's so wide. Not a huge complaint, but full flat ground blade. CTS XHP steel, which is like on my Techno, and I love it. Taichung, Taiwan. Some of their best made knives are Taichung made knives, and designed by Eric Glesser. I love how the screws are countersunk into the handle like that. It gives a real nice recessed look. A nice tubed lanyard hole. It looks good, and it protects your lanyards. And this is, I believe, well, I know because Spyderco had the Southern, and it had bearings, and it was a flipper, but that was a Brad Southern design. I think this was Spyderco's first in-house designed flipper. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong. But it also has a ball bearing system on the inside. They're caged ball bearings, just like Kershaw's KVT system. So it's pretty smooth. Still got to work it out. It kind of feels a little gritty right now, like not as smooth as it could be. So I may take it apart and clean it and then put it back together. It has an internal stop pin. You can probably see it. It's right there. And it just has a cutout in the blade. It's like a half moon, and it'll stop. It looks really cool to not see a stop pin in there, but know that the blade is suspended. A really good looking stone wash on the back. It's that kind of dark stone wash like the Southern had. As you can see, of course, the frame lock. And it has, I think this is the first Spyderco knife that ever did this, a stainless steel lock insert. So you're not relying on the softer titanium as your locking media. So steel on steel, the way it should be in my opinion. Even though the Spyderco Techno is just fine, but the lock face on that knife is carburized and will probably stay that way for forever. So at least as long as I'll have it. Beautiful finish on that blade. I really, really like the finish on that. Like you just look at it and it just shines. Shine bright like a diamond. Alright, that'll be the last time you hear me sing. But initial sharpness out of the box, let's check that out. Oh yeah. Not as sharp as it could be for sure. But it is very sharp right out of the box. Love the ergonomics, of course. It's a Spyderco. They don't make bad knives. Ergonomics are awesome. The flipper kind of turns into a finger guard, but it's not noticeable. Not real noticeable, I mean. Has a forward finger choil, which I've kind of come to like. I've grown to like it. The forward portion of that isn't real sharp like in previous models. The jimping's kind of awful, but that's kind of what I've known from a lot of the Taichung knives, is that the jimping is just not good. But it's whatever. It's cool. I'm not a huge stickler for jimping anyway. It's not something I'm going to jump down the knife maker's throat for. If it is good jimping, great. If it's not really a point of contention with me. This Spyderco likes to do the double pivot screws. Kind of helps with centering. Kind of makes it confusing though too. So the lock is kind of sticky at the moment, but it needs some break-in time. It's still steel on steel. Steel on steel, titanium on steel. They all have the chance to stick. So that's why I might take it down and clean it, because sometimes it's just from oils on the lock face, the factory grease, or some steel dust buildup. But anyway, it is a flipper, so let me just shut up about that kind of stuff and talk about the flipping action. How's the action? Well, the action is outstanding on this knife. It's a ball bearing knife, but Spyderco just does things right anyway. So the lock bar has a lot of tension on it, and the detent ball is extremely strong, or the detent I should say, not detent ball. But the detent's extremely strong on this knife, but still super easy to flip. And the cool thing about this knife is that a lot of flippers are designed to be flipped a certain way. Some people will get their flipper and they've only been used to push buttoning, and maybe you need a light switch flick. Or like the Boker Quaken, you have to kind of caress. It doesn't work with this knife actually. But you have to kind of caress the flipper. And a lot of people are like, man, this flipper sucks. But it's just their technique. They're not used to that kind of flipper. And every flipper flips a little bit differently. Has to do with fulcrums and detent, technique, all that good stuff. But you can actually light switch this knife open, which I don't prefer. I've gotten in the habit of kind of caressing flippers with my Quaken. By kind of putting your finger on it and just sliding straight back, and that does work. because it's smooth, it's on bearings, it has a great detent. Pretty much any way you're going to flip this, it's going to work. Except that time. It's still a little, the action's still a little stiff, but it's new. But it works best when you push button, definitely. Very snappy flipper. And man, listen to the way it sounds when it locks up. Let's get that again. It just sounds really good. It has a really neat sound to it because it's steel on steel, but then you have that kind of muffled sound from the titanium. It sounds really cool. Here's the lockup. Try to show that to you the best way that I can. Really cool knife. I've really been enjoying playing with it and carrying it. Carries really well. Has a really good feel to it. Like I said, the ergonomics are great. Bigger than I thought, but it's really comfortable. Just feels really good and solid in the hand. I really do like the design. And I like the extra size, basically, because I thought it was going to be kind of small. Because, you know, you can read measurements online, but that only tells you so much. It's going to look and feel different to you in person. I also forgot to mention, it has this kind of little cutout in the handle scales. Or in the handle, I mean. To kind of aid in putting your finger there and sliding back. Or when you light switch, it kind of gives you like a little ramp. Like I said, the spring pressure on the lock bar is extremely strong, so it's kind of hard to disengage the lock at first, especially since there's the jimping is very smooth on that lock insert. So kind of wish there was more of a cutout for you, or the jimping was better, but it's not horrible. I don't know why that they covered up the Spidey hole that much. If they moved the Spidey hole just back a little bit, that would have been great, but I don't know why they covered it up like that. I think that it looks messy. That's just aesthetics, you know, that has nothing to do with the knife. It's just personal nitpicking. But you can open it with the Spidey hole very easily. The flipper will hit your finger, but it doesn't hurt and it doesn't get in the way that much. So you can do a nice smooth controlled opening. You can flick it out if you want, and you can middle finger flick out. So I don't want you guys to think this is a proprietary flipper only knife like with the Southern, which that's, you know, wasn't a bad thing. Well, it's not that you couldn't use the hole in the Southern, it was just harder. But this is very easy. But anyway, guys, really digging the Domino. Can't wait to do my full review, give you guys my full thoughts on it. And but you know, of course, I like to carry my knives more, use them, test them. And the H&K Plan D, of course, like I said, I still need to review it. But my first impressions of both knives is that they're both awesome. So glad I picked up the Plan D. Very thankful to knifehog.com for sending me the Domino for testing purposes. Definitely go check them out. They're a really cool up-and-coming knife website, if you haven't already checked them out. I've heard of a couple people talking about them on Instagram. But anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this overview of my two most recent knives that I've picked up. If you have any questions about either or comments, of course, you know where to leave them, guys. All right, have a great rest of your day. Stay safe, stay sharp, and God bless. Sherman614, peace.